So, with that, ladies, I would like to welcome you all to our Finding Her Masterclass today. This is the journey to unleashing the aspired and desired self. We're going to reignite our zest, our passion, and sparkle with connecting to her, and her is spelled H-E-R, and we're going to learn more about what that is. It's our heavenly sent, energetically empowered, and radically on time expired self. So, with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Tracy to take it from here.
Hello, Queens. I'm so excited. It is 6 p.m. here in beautiful Greece. It is about 9,000 degrees, so excuse me if I'm half dressed showing up, but we are in the midst of a heat wave here. As I am so excited to talk on this subject. I was just jotting down some of my thoughts and whatnot, and I was thinking that as a woman, sometimes in life we just need a huge reset. And when I was thinking about that, I am somebody who is a soul searcher, and I'm always looking into myself to, if something goes wrong, I always assume that I've done something to cause it or I had ownership in it somewhere. I behaved wrongly, I responded wrongly. And so I'm always, and the moral of that is that I'm one of those personalities that before I blame anyone for the outcome of my life, or the outcome of even other people's lives, I will first look at myself and say, what is this? And I realized that at my age, at the experience that I have in life, that I have done so much soul searching. I have dug deep into the inner terrains of my emotional system. I have walked through my trauma. I have faced my demons. I have slayed the majority of my demons. The whole thing about life is that it's ever evolving, and as soon as like you get past one thing, there's a new lesson coming on down the pike. And I with that, I reached several times on the journey where I just said one way to describe it is I wish that I could be like a piece of silver. All I had to do is get dunked in the tarnish remover and I would be able to come up new. I wish that I could just simply have a reset, a reinvent, not more therapy, not more strategy sessions, not more of anything else that's going to take an extra ounce of my energy, because really I'm probably giving the best that I have with what I have to give, but simply just a reset. And I believe that I have been divinely downloaded some information that, dang it, I wish I would have known this information like in my 40s or my 30s or even my 20s, because I think it would have saved me so much sufferances. And the key to that I realize, and it's based in a little bit of shame and a little bit of culture, that when I would reach places along my journey where from the core of the cells, a message was shouting that said, I want more out of life. I want more. I want to experience more. I want to be more. I want to participate more. I want to feel more, because I don't know about you, any of you in the room, but I have reached points of complete numbness in my life. I have reached points of confusion in my life where I didn't know what road to take. I had these dreams sitting inside of me that were literally waking me up in the middle of the night. And I had no idea how to make them unfold. And I didn't have the energy to do all what needed to be done in order to create that change without it exhausting me even more. Does any of this make sense to anyone in the room? So, in my prayer and meditation time, every time we're getting ready for the divine, it's exciting because in the inner circle, that because we're one unit, I would say that if one thing happens to somebody who is connected to you on a soul level, that you'll by osmosis start to be going through some of the same things yourself and the same things yourself and the same things yourself. And moving into this, I was really struggling with what are we going to talk about? We can talk about manifesting and we can talk about all the fun stuff that we did. And one day in my prayer and meditation time, I suddenly got this vision. And it was a vision of a collective group of women they were in front of crystal balls and they were fervently looking inside the crystal ball, and as though I could understand their their thoughts, they were searching, what's next in life, what does my future hold? And there was this passion and this fear and this frustration for the lack of clarity, a hopeful hopelessness, meaning that I was like, both of those missions, come on, the answer's got to be there, and yet running in the background. But is it? But is it because I've been searching for a really long time for that game changer, that moment, that one thought, that one opportunity that's just going to create the game change that I need so much? And I felt all these emotions. And as I stepped closer to the women in the vision and I looked inside their crystal ball, what I saw a sun, and it was a sun sitting on the horizon. And what I asked the divine, I'm like, what is this? The message that came through very clear was, this represents the energy of a woman. And the woman who is sitting, the next version of her that's sitting on the horizon of her life, simply waiting for her permission to say, rise. And I quickly went over to AI, believe it or not, and I jumped on there and I'm like, create me an image that da 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 da. And I told AI exactly what I had seen in my mind's eye, and the most beautiful image came out. Fast forward, I was holding on to that image. And then again, in my prayer and meditation time, and for all of you who want the next version of yourself or those answers, you got to spend time in your prayer and meditation time. All of a sudden, I got this really clear download, and it simply said her. And I said, who's her? And the answer that I got is, the sun on the horizon is her. And I was explained that the her represents heavenly inspired, which, dang it, we are heavenly inspired, not just as female beings, but I know that if I were to jump into each and every one of your hearts right now, that I would see the most lovely, passionate, brave, courageous woman who has a stamp of something big on your life. Heavenly inspired. And the word inspire means to be in spirit, which means that we're divinely made, which that ties into the whole journey that my life has been on for years, is really understanding what is this thing called the divine, and who is she and me, and who am I as a reflection of that divine on this universe, and all the thousands of questions that I had as I began this journey. Heavenly defined. E is energetically empowered. And as this universe that we live in, everything comes down to energy. Everything is energy. Thought is energy. Your heartbeat is energy. Color is energy. Sound is energy. Everything is energy. And when we learn to tap into that energy, we are energetically empowered. We have the tools to create our life by design. We have the tools to undo. And the vision that I'm getting right now is, have any of you opened up your jewelry box and your necklaces got tangled? When I was relocating from California to here for the summer, I had all my jewelry, and when I got here and I started unpacking it, some of my necklaces tangled up and they were just knotted. And it took me actually a couple of days where I would just have to take one little thread and pull it here and do it here. And finally, at the end, it was like they just unraveled and they became these independent pieces of jewelry again. And that's what it is. When we are energetically empowered, we have the ability to find the solutions to what we are facing in our life. And one thing that I was sharing a few weeks ago with somebody who's on their desire for a reinvent is I shared with them, I said, the thing about this universe that we live in, this universe is made up of formulas. And I'll go back and I'll share a story that my father-in-law taught me years ago. Is I was married once before, for those of you who don't know, and I found myself in a very abusive relationship. And and during that part of my relationship, that I had a very humiliating thing happen with the family. I came from a small town. I come from a very conservative background, and I married into this family. And what happened? It was, and I was always a hard worker. I had just finished my college studies, and newly married, and it was Thanksgiving, and so they said, okay. The mother said, okay, we'll do Thanksgiving at our house, and I said, okay. And being a polite girl, did what my mother taught me, which is, what can I bring? And so they said to me, mashed potatoes. Yo soy Latina. I wasn't raised with mashed potatoes. So I was like, mashed potatoes. Dear God, how do you make mashed potatoes? Because keep in mind, I was a college girl. I barely knew how to boil water because, excuse me, because I didn't have time. I was trying to make something of my life. But nonetheless, I ran into the store and I was racing through the store, and all of a sudden I passed a box and it said instant mashed potatoes. And I was like, huh. So I grabbed them. I read the ingredients. I got all the ingredients. I ran home. I followed the recipe. I bring the mashed potatoes to dinner, and they're eating the mashed potatoes and they're enjoying them. They say, oh my gosh, Tracy, these mashed potatoes are absolutely wonderful. How did you make them? And I said, I followed the instructions on the box. And in a matter of seconds, I became the laughing stock of the family. And they were laughing and pointing at me and saying, oh, she can graduate from college, but she can't even mash a potato. Which, by the way, is the name of my cookbook. She can graduate from college, but she can't mash a potato. Because what I learned that day is it was very embarrassing, obviously. So, fast forward, I'm away from that relationship. I'm newly married to Spiro. And when Spiro and I got married, I was really clear with him and I told him, I don't cook. And he says, why don't you cook? And I said, because cooking is very traumatizing to me. I was forced to cook in that relationship. I don't know how to cook. And it always was just a very awful thing. So Spiro was cool with it. And for the first year of our marriage, he cooked all the meals. So I'm sitting at dinner one night with my father-in-law, God bless him, because he's not with us anymore in a physical sense. And he called me Trace. And one day he looks at me and he said, hey, Trace, why don't you cook? And I said, because I'm a bad cook, Dad. I called him Dad. I'm a bad cook, Dad. And he says, what the F are you talking about? And he goes, can you read? And I said, of course I can read. I'm a college graduate. And he said, then read the effing recipe and follow the recipe. And if it turns out good, it's a good recipe. And if it turns out bad, it's a bad recipe. And it was such a simple formula to follow. So fast forward my life, I became obsessed with reading recipes and wondering, why do you add that? And what about this? And little secret things inside of it. Today, I'm actually a pretty accomplished chef, I would say. But the moral of my story is what I learned from that is that when we live in this universe that is governed by energy, all we have to do is find the right formula. And if we are going through life, first off, if you're going through life without a formula, you are going to run into a brick wall at 10,000 miles an hour. So one of our jobs is simply to learn to find the recipes of life, the formulas of life. And if the way you're doing life aligns with the formulas, then life is going to work. And if the formula that you're using is creating bad results, it's a bad formula. And all you have to do is find the formula to work. Is any of this resonating with anybody? Good. Okay. So when I teach or talk or share my insights, my divine downloads, as I call them, and I'll do a little sidebar as to what that means in just a second, is that I've really become focused on what is the formula. If I want to make a great cake, I'm not a cake eater, but if I wanted to make a great cake, I'm going to find a great recipe. And if I follow it, it's going to come out to be a great cake. Why doesn't that transfer in relationships? Why doesn't it transfer in business? Why doesn't that transfer in the art of communication, in pursuing our dreams, or whatever it is? The answer is it does. But we women are oftentimes not given that simple mindset that rather than get upset and beat ourselves up and spend hours in therapy, which I'm a full believer of therapy, instead ask a simple question to the universe. Is this the right formula? And if it's hurting, the universe will call back, yeah, I'd say nopey nope on that one. Nopey nope. You know those tears that you're crying? Yeah, nopey nope, not a good formula. In the name of love, love doesn't hurt. Bad formula, wrong formula. Do you understand what I'm saying? So one of the formulas that I recently learned, and dang it, I wish had it when I was younger, but okay, divinely on time, right? I am radically on time, so I needed to learn this now. Is that I spent many years of my life being a specialist in suffering. And one of the reasons that I was a professional sufferer is because culture taught me that it was my role to be a sufferer. Religion taught me that it was my role, be long suffering, which that's completely taken out of context, just to let you know. And because of my trauma wounds and the lack at that time, I did not have the formula of self-love within me, what that meant, what that looked like, that we're even supposed to have it. I allowed myself for years and years and years and years to suffer. And even now, I can find myself, I'm in a really cool reinvention part of my life right now. And I feel like the whole room is lit up on this reinvention rather than sitting in the dark. And it's, wow, what a difference to go through a season with all the lights on. Does that make sense? So I'm going through this reinvention with this newfound information that I have with the lights on. And I'm actually enjoying it. But one of the things that I have really discovered is that when we reach points of sufferance, and I don't know how each of you ever handled your sufferance times, but the way that I would handle it would be thoughts like, why is this happening to me? Why does the universe think I deserve this? Why do I have to work so hard for everything? Why is it that my hard work is not paying off? That makes sense to you all? So I would sit there in pain, emotional pain, psychological pain, spiritual pain, that would then inevitably transfer over to body pain and relationship pain and then financial pain. And it was just this cascading effect of how the sufferance would take over my entire being. And when I would hit those deep points of sufferances, I would start to doubt myself more. I would doubt my God, divine universe, however you want to define it, more. I would doubt people more. And I began asking, why am I here? If this is it, if life is about suffering so much and the rewards in between, the sufferances are far and few between, what in the heck is the purpose of me being here? To suffer? That's my place in this universe, to suffer? And this was my mindset for many years. Now, because I'm the last thing to go in me is hope, like many women. I would continue to hope on. I would continue to persevere. I would continue to believe it because the pilot light of my dream would never go away inside of me. I still wanted healthy love. I still wanted to pursue my dreams. I still had a bigger definition of my life than what was in front of me. And it was that kept me going and why I was able to, in the midst of my pain, continue to accomplish. But many years of my accomplishments was one step forward, three steps back, two steps forward, one step back. My foot was on the gas and the brake at the same time, and it left me tired and discouraged. So along my journey, when I got the vision of this beautiful crystal ball, it started to tap into lessons that I had learned prior to that. And one lesson that I learned many years ago on my spiritual journey was the fact that we as humans are like a piece of grass, in that we can never stop growing. And from one blade can become two blades. That's the beautiful thing about birth and being a woman. We can actually create life. And I never was able to really lean into that. But the message always sat here in the back of my mind. And after all of this started to piece together, because that's what the universe does, that our answers oftentimes don't come as these big epiphanic moments. They come in a little morsel here, a little morsel there, a little piece of wisdom there, a little bite of happiness there, a little insight there. And before you know it, all mixed together, just like a great recipe, we find our next step in life. So suddenly I'm reminded of this old concept that we humans are like grass, that we will just continue to grow and grow. And when the old one is dead, a new blade will grow within. And as I was thinking about that and thinking about her, thinking about on the horizon, giving permission to rise, all of a sudden it became crystal clear that these horrible seasons of sufferances that I had were not put in my stride because of something that I was doing wrong. Now, I'm going to make a little bit of a sidebar. A lot of that was able to enter my life because of my mindset, because everything in life is thought, right? And I had some wacky thoughts going on inside of me with anxiety and depression and fear and all the convoluted things. But as those continued to move through my life and exit my life, why do we have sufferances in life? If we're good people, if we wake up every day trying our best, if we have good intentions, if we're interested in staying in our lane and making our life great and not wanting to hurt anybody along the way, we just don't want to die, become the walking dead on this universe. And if that's the case, why do we have dreams if we're not meant to fulfill them? These are just some of the ways that my mind thinks. And it became crystal clear that all of these sufferances that we have in our life are not meant to discourage us, are not the universe picking on us, are not things just to exhaust us, or that whole, there's a book I remember, The Road Less Traveled, and everybody was saying, this is such a great book, this is such a great book. And I remember opening it up, this great book, and the very first sentence was, life is difficult. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is not inspiring to me at all. I don't need a book to tell me that. I experience that on a day-to-day level. But what I discovered is that all the sufferances that we have when we're doing the right things, it's her talking to us. Who we are today is only an element of who we are throughout our entire life. As ever evolving beings, we're always changing. We're always on, and the vision that I'm getting right now is how many of you have kids or puppies or kittens? And within 1 week, that precious being, all of a sudden you look at them and say, oh my God, they're changing. Oh my gosh, they're growing. Oh my gosh, look at that. We've been doing that our whole life, but somehow when we reach our given stature, the only thing that's supposed to change is our age or our body weight. We never, ever stop evolving and growing. And the way that we know, in other words, let me stop for just a second. In other words, at all times of our life, we are on the reinvent. At all times of our life, we are on the reinvent. We are ever growing, ever changing beings. And when we arrive at a place that the new me is here, and I'm operating and I'm firing on all engines, and life is working out great, that's the new me, the new creation in me that's in this existence. But the entire time that I'm living the existence as this person, there's a whole new me on the horizon who's getting developed, who's beginning to awaken, who has new needs, who needs new stimulations, who has higher aspirations. We are never to stop growing, ever. The day that we stop growing is the day that we pass on to the other side. And when we begin to suffer, it's not a punishment. It is an awareness from our future that the new you has begun to awaken. She's beginning to, oh, just a second. I know that I used to tolerate that, and at one time it did make sense, but doesn't make sense anymore. I'll be quite honest with you. In my past life, I used to allow people to do some really crappy things to me, speak with me with disrespect. And I would cry and I would ask them not to do it. And I would take it personal and I would think it's me and I would shape shift. Now, thank God, her arose in me and showed up one day and said, you can allow people to continue to yell at you, but you're probably going to get sick if you do that. The reason that life hurts is not because we deserve punishment. The reason that life hurts is that these are God universe's bumpers in our life, that when we slam up against these things and we say, ouch, this hurts. I don't like this. I don't want this. The universe says, exactly. Because if you were meant to tolerate it, it wouldn't hurt. And the vision that I'm getting in my mind's eye right now, what is the name, Tia, of that awful wrestling thing where these people get in the pin and they just wrestle like animals and they beat the crap out of each other? Do you know what I'm talking about? Is it the MMA? Yeah. These humans get in a pin and experience such physical trauma. And then at the end, with the blood and the broken teeth and the broken nose, what's their demeanor? Yeah, I did it. Me on the receiving end of a rageaholic, you're going to destroy me. Me on the receiving end of somebody who's abandoning me, I'm going to get destroyed. Me on the other end of somebody who wants to stop me from my dreams, I'm going to die. How do I know? Because when I expose myself to people like that, I physically feel it. Every fiber of my being says, I don't want this. This is not who I am. And I'm going to add 2 words that I want you to add on to the end of that. Anymore. This is not who I am anymore. And when our her arrives and we become consciously aware that she exists, that she is on our team, it is a game changer for how we handle crisis, how we handle difficult times, how we handle people who want to create us into who they need us to be in order to feel safe about being around us. But here's a memo from Self Love Normal Land. It is not our job to make people feel safe with who we are. People can either accept us for who we are, or who we're becoming, or not. There is, I don't know what faith either any of you are here. I'm a spiritualist, so I don't necessarily subscribe to any particular religion, but there is a story in the Old Testament of the Bible, and it's about this guy named Jonah. And I don't know what the heck Jonah was doing one day, but the dude got swallowed by a whale. So there he was in the stinky belly of the whale, as the story goes. And in the middle of this awful, miserable existence that his choices put him in, the way that the story reads is that, and then suddenly Jonah changed his mind. And that means that as Jonah, whatever choices Jonah made to get sucked up in the belly of a whale, which those are some pretty stupid choices, right? I don't know what they were, but he got himself there. In the midst of that pain, Jonah had an epiphany and he changed his mind. He changed his mind about the way he thought. He changed his mind about some belief systems that had put into him that were not his. He was forced to believe them. He changed his mind and he said in a prayer, I changed my mind. And when he changed his mind, the whale spit him up. He went flying out of the whale's mouth and he came back to life and began to live a different life. And I share that with you because when we make the conscious choice, and it's going to be one of my call for actions, I'm going to call you into the action of going through the rest of your life understanding that her exists at all times. At your highest moment, she's just hanging out in the background, learning and growing to say, whoo, where am I going to take this girl? Let's see, let's find out. At your deepest, darkest moments, she is screaming at you through your pain. That's why you suffer, because it's all bells and whistles that you have evolved into a new definition of you, and that it is time to usher her in. You wipe the tears off your face, and rather than saying, why me, you look at her and your God or your universe and you say, what do you want me to be? What are you trying to tell me? And when this starts to unfold itself, and when you look at your life, and there's an exercise that I love doing, and I do it in my Reclaiming Me classes. I do it with myself quite often when I feel myself going through that evolutionary period, because now I'm aware. Now, when I begin to suffer, I'm aware. I'm like, oh, her is talking to me. Her is sending me really clear aches and pains that tell me you're not that person anymore, Tracy. You're not that person anymore. So the question becomes, how do we handle that? We lean into the fact that her exists, this heavenly inspired, energetically empowered, and radically on time woman coming down the pike. She is real. She is our future. She is the next best definition of self. She has the answer to our questions. She has the skill set to figure it out. She has the charisma to connect with the right people. She has the dreams and the visions to understand the roadmap. She is so freaking awesome. And we all have access to her, but we can't block her. So, number one, embrace her. Embrace her going through life. That anytime you suffer, you say, thank you, got it. Then you have to examine, why is it that I'm choosing to hold on to the old me, the one who no longer fits in the shoes that I wear? The answer is tradition, fear, commitment, history, right? One of the scariest statements that we can make in a relationship, or the scariest situations that we can make in a relationship, is to realize that who we are in the relationship today is not who the people around us know. That we have evolved, that we have changed. And so what we do is we go into months, if not years of our life, trying to be the person that everybody has known, then suffering within ourselves because her needs to birth. Any of this make sense with you all? So our job is to develop her. First off, to recognize her, to make her visible, to make her a part of your life. She's a part of my life every day now. Every day now, I'm completely aware of when something happens and I'm like, wow, I'm just not that person anymore. I have changed. And I say some of the scariest words that as adults is terrifying to say. I want something else in life. I want something more. I want something different than this. Oh my gosh, you selfish woman. How many of your 16s, and you guys know about my 16, did that buzz very loud and clear? You can't say that. What are you talking about? Everybody is relying on you in this way. And here's the good news. When her shows up, she's much more reliable. She's much more efficient, and she doesn't suffer in present time. So we embrace her, we begin to develop her, we give her needs of knowledge, her needs of adventure, her needs of sexuality, her needs of femininity, her needs of spirituality, the new way she wants to eat, the new way she wants to dance, the new way she wants to laugh. She's an adventurer. Do you understand? Her is an adventurer. She needs to experience the grandness that this existence, that's why we're here, to experience this place called life, to experience this place called love, to experience this place called family, to experience our dreams and our aspirations, to clumsily learn new skills. Do you want to know why Alzheimer's is epidemic right now? Because we stop growing as human beings. We stop using our brain cells by learning something new. And it is only through listening to the promptings of her, the curiosities of her, that little girl in you that is curious about everything, but the woman that she is, to make wise decisions. So how do we introduce her to our entire family that is gasping at the thought that we have a new thought? All of a sudden we dress a little different, we walk a little different, we talk a little different, and they freak out. You handle it honestly. You make a statement to them that you let people know that one thing I've learned along my journey is that we are ever evolving people. We are never to stop growing, and I have stopped growing in many areas within this dynamic. And I can no longer do it because I'm suffering. And when I suffer, you get the lesser version of me. And in the name of love for myself and love for this family and love for us and love, I'm going to be on a journey of growing. And I'm so excited to introduce you to my new her. And I'm hoping that my new her will launch your new her, and that we can get to know each other all over again as the new version of who I am today. Love is not like this. Love is not one person. And this is an ideology that we have been taught. One person can only love you in life, and the two shall become one. No, that's just during sex. Okay. We are two separate individuals. Okay. Two separate individuals. One of the biggest statements that I had to learn to say in my life, in my relationships with my family, with Spiro, with my parents, because my dad, I love my dad to death, but the change for him doesn't go over well. I have to remind people, this is my life, this is my journey. I have people in my life who I love deeply, and they make choices that are destroying their life. My only sanity is to repeat that mantra. It is their life, it is their journey. Who am I to stop another person? And at the same time, who is another person to really stop us? That's not love. A person who loves you wants to see the full bouquet of you. They don't want to see wilted flowers dying in a vase of old stagnant water. A person who really loves you wants to help clean the water and watch you grow. It takes courage, but it's one of your birthrights to become all that you have created yourself to be. We belong to no one in life. Our parents birthed us, but we are not their property. A religion, we do not belong to a religion. A religion or a spirituality is given to us so that we can get through this life with the principles and practices that make tomorrow a better place. Love, we belong to no one. And if we truly love another person, we will also encourage them to become the highest, most pure definition of themselves, always taking adventure, always trying to find something new for their life. Because I want those love bits given to me as well. So you introduce yourself to the new people, to the people around you. I'm really excited to introduce you to her. You know what? She's not as controlling. She's not as big of a control freak. Am I going to get it right? I might be like the pendulum where, because I've been so deprived of one area, I'm going to swing, but you'll come back. You'll come back and you'll learn how to do this thing in life with a zest and a reinvent. And I'm thinking about whenever I go clothes shopping and I'm trying on clothes and trying on clothes and trying on clothes, and I'm just despising every single minute of it. And then suddenly I put on one outfit and it's a new me. It's a new style. It's a new image. And it feels so good that it found me. This is what it feels like when we step into our new me. when we step into her. So we tell other people that we love, there's a new girl in town. Let me tell you who I'm not anymore, because you really have to clarify it. I'm not somebody who is gonna, one of my things that I had to say again and again, it is not my responsibility to process your emotions. You are responsible for processing your emotions. How many of you beautiful queens in the room take bullets for other people, or when somebody gets upset, you go into all the tactics that we do to try to settle people down, calm people down, make sure that they're safe? Okay, this is what we could do for children, but adults are responsible for their own emotions. And you want to know how I really know that's true? Because when I get upset, not everybody's racing in to help me process through my emotions. They're like, deal with it. So why is it that doesn't go across the board? You have the right, as the queen that you are, to change your mind. And how do you do that? You listen to what's going wrong in your life. You listen to what's going wrong in your life. You listen to what's uncomfortable in your life. And one of our life works for homes that I'm going to encourage you to do is take out a piece of paper and just make a list what you don't like anymore. Just put it on paper. I promise it's not going to blow up like a bomb on you and you're going to get hurt. Nothing's going to happen except the truth will finally be out of your soul, and you'll stop getting sick by holding those emotions. What I'd have to do with that information, you can just sit on it. You don't have to share it with anybody today, but at least you have made space for the new you by exiting those emotions out of your body, putting them on a piece of paper. And now there's an emotional cavity in you for her to enter. I don't like this. It's a very simple list. I don't like this. I don't like living in environments where somebody controls me. I don't like not having my alone time in the morning. I don't like not being able to pursue my dreams. I don't like having to explain myself to another adult human being. I don't like not being trusted. I don't like not having my own money. I don't like knowing where our money is going. I don't like this. You purge your soul of what's no longer working with you. Put it on a piece of paper and begin to usher her into your being, the one who has the answers. And when people say, why are you doing this? It'd be like Jonah in the belly, because I changed my mind. I simply changed my mind. I know that I used to be acceptable, and I changed my mind. And people will never go with it the first time. They will test you. They will try to make you go back to who you once were. And you don't have to scream and yell. You can just simply say, oh, I know I used to be the one who does all the housework around here, or I'm the one who's always carrying this or taking these bullets. I know, but you know what? I've finally come to a real clarity that just doesn't work for me anymore. I'm no longer that person. And as human beings, ever evolving human beings, we have every right to not be the person who we once were. We can change like that. And we have that birthright as a responsibility. I'm going to leave you with one last thought that I have it on my big piece of paper right here. Oh, I don't think it's going to. Okay, let me read it to you. But it's a big reminder. Ooh, I look all mysterious. Ooh, you can't read that. Okay. It says okay, so I was having this question, like, why is it that stagnation happens? And this quote says, the universe cannot support status quo because we are ever evolving beings. And what that means to me is, if I'm doing the same thing day in and day out and not getting a response and getting frustrated, I'm really not doing anything. I'm going through life in habit. instead of as conscious awareness and a conscious being, making conscious choices to experience this beautiful place called life.
Dr. Tracy, will you repeat that one more time?
I'll try to, because I'm really
Oh,
operating in the divine.
The quote off the paper.
My magic. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. Okay, great. All right, keep saying. The universe cannot support status quo because we are ever evolving beings. And so if something in your life is not moving at the pace that you want it to, there's something in there that's no longer you, that you're trying to push the formula through, that you need to operate in new ways. You need to update your formula. So I want you to examine your life. And I want you to become aware. It's your second life work for home. What areas of your life are not working? And then if you have the ability, ask yourself, well, what's my formula? A formula that I had for years is somebody who had an over-controlling personality would get upset because I would have a first voice. Then they would react in a way that would launch my trauma wounds. And then I would end up crying and feeling awful for days and days and days and days, because my personality as an empath is things don't easily sling off me. They like stab me in the heart and then I roll around with them for days and whatnot. I'm not that person anymore. That formula was not a winning formula. I want a different life. I want a different experience. I want a love where there's communication. I want friendships where I can speak my mind. Last night on my late night confession session, I was talking about intimacy. I want to be with somebody who I can be candid and open and honest without being ridiculed, judged, and condemned. So that person is not responding with their form. My formula doesn't work because in there, my formula said I have to take it personal. In there, my formula said that I have to end up in tears. My formula said, no, that's a bad formula. My formula is this behavior. If you continue this behavior, it is going to affect our relationship. It is a non-sustainable formula for love. It is a non-sustainable formula for love. So if you love me, let's find a new formula, because this one is already causing damage. Do you understand? Life is all about formulas. Examine your formulas, the ones that are working and the ones that aren't. So that is the beautiful message that I have today, which I'm so excited to be teaching on this. I really hope that all of you can get to the Discover the Divine conference, because it's going to be 4 days of immersing into this amazing concept of understanding who her is, what our warning signs are, how to really dig down and make space for her, and how to settle in. So many of us go through life saying, I feel alone, I feel alone, I feel alone, I feel alone. And it doesn't matter your religious preferences or what have you, can still have, I feel alone, I feel alone. And one thing that I've learned in discovering her is I'm never alone. I'm never alone. This divine being, the spirit being that is with me at all times, is creating the next version of me. She is working behind the scenes to make my life great. Completely more aware of the dreams. I don't even know the dreams that I have coming down the pike, but she does, and she's already developing them for me. I am never alone, and I have a full ally that has been sent from the heavens, constantly in the works to create the next step for my life. And it has put such a solidness in the core of my being that, yes, I can get discouraged on days, I can lose my perspective on days. But when I remind myself, Tracy, the reason it hurts is because you're not meant to live in discouragement. Tracy, the reason it hurts is because you're not meant to not have your dream come to fruition. It's not that doesn't mean that you're not meant to have your dreams. It's a sign that you're not meant to not have your dreams. Talk about changing your mind on the way you feel about things. So Tia can give you more on the Discover the Divine. And it has just been such a privilege to sit here in the room with you amazing women. And at this time, we'll open it up to Q&A.
So, ladies, if you have a question, you can either raise your hand in the Zoom room, or you can type the question into the chat and I will read it to Dr. Tracy. While people are submitting questions, Dr. Tracy, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
My first question is, you were sharing with us that we can say, I don't like this. When someone comes to us and says, I don't like this, I think sometimes we can get triggered and then we respond to this. And can we talk a little bit about, like, when we're saying, I don't like this to someone, our response being in a loving manner versus a fearful manner, and kind of how we can present that differently to the person that we're sharing that message with.
Yeah. Here's the thing is, dang it, it's called ego. And that dang ego, man, it can just ruin so many things so quickly. And it's we are programmed, I think, to operate out of ego first. And if somebody says to you, I don't like this, what's the first thing? Well, we immediately go into the defense as though that person doesn't have the right to an opinion. So I'm sorry, I have to let me get my seat comfortable again. It keeps sliding out from underneath me. All right, hold on a second. Okay. Sorry. All right. So we have to become aware that everybody has a right to an opinion. And all you're stating is your opinion. So when on the side of being on the receiving end of, I don't like this, I have learned to, my ego, man, she just goes, right? Like this. I can totally hear her. And I've learned to just say, stop it and just be quiet and listen, because I learned a very valuable lesson years ago. And that lesson is that our emotions are not up for negotiation. I'm going to repeat that. Our emotions are not up for negotiation. I feel what I feel. My experience is my experience. My opinions are my opinions. Is it truth? Maybe, but all I know, it's my truth. And if that's what I feel, then that's what my reality is at the time. So and on the flip side of that, if somebody says, I don't like this, well, that's their experience with this situation. I don't have to own it as true. It's not even my job to convince them whether or not they are right or wrong. My job is to simply absorb. And if it's something, and I can tame my ego and I can get to that place of love and absorbing what they're saying and not let my codependence and then lose my boundaries on all the things I have to do to remain stabilized, then a lot of times the solution can come quickly and a new formula can go into effect quickly. If I find that my ego is screaming at them from behind my eyes, that I say, you know what, thank you for sharing. I let me just sit on this for just a second and let it settle in for just a bit. And I just try not to speak and give it time to settle in, reminding myself this is their experience with it. Their emotions are not up for negotiation. So just, is there any truth in this? I try to examine from all sides and find a healthy way. So your question was, how do we approach people and tell them, I don't like this? I believe that when we begin to go into the evolution of self, that outside of you being aware of it, the next person in your life that needs to be aware of it are the people who your life affects. the people who are used to dealing with the old, almost retired version of you, that we need to go on record with them to say, you know what, I'm going through an evolution. What, midlife crisis? No, I'm going through an evolution. It doesn't have to, you can give it whatever name you want. But I'm in where I am in my life right now with the people who surrounds me, this is a normal conversation that we would all be able to have, is just to say, I'm changing, I'm growing, and whatnot. So the way that you say it is, first off, to go on record to say, I'm going through, I'm growing and I'm changing. And within that, I have a new set of needs. And I'm a different person than I was when you met me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, before babies. I mean, the thing about life is that trauma and situations change us. I'm going to sidebar for just a second. Yeah. Research shows that when a person goes through a narcissistic abusive relationship, that you come out the other side a different person. It changes you. So when we are in a relationship that may have caused us some trauma, or we have gone through many years, or a difficulty, anything, it changes us. And we do not have to apologize about that. That is just a fact of life. Good times change us and difficult times change us. It's new information into our belief system that makes us think differently and react differently. This is not up for negotiation. This is how we are built as human beings. So if somebody gets mad at you for that, I don't know what to even say, because tell them to take it up with God, because that's just how we've been built as human beings. The first thing is to let people know, listen, I'm going through a change. I know I used to be the person who tolerated this. I know it used to be okay to communicate like that. I know I used to do this, but it's not a sustainable formula. And my concern is, like, if you're talking about relationships with people that you love, you know what? My goal in life is to have a great relationship. That's my goal. And this formula that we're using, it's not sustainable. And I'm really concerned that if this formula continues, it's going to damage the relationship beyond repair. And so it's really speaking your truth and setting a new standard in the relationship. We're not taught that when we enter into relationships with people, that we're going to change. We have the right to change. What are we going to do when we change? And what do we do if we're living a formula that doesn't work? The words, this is a non-sustainable formula, start implementing that in your life, and you would be amazed at how people will say, what? Yeah, reacting like that it's not a sustainable formula. It's going to cause damage in the relationship. Is that what you want? Because I don't want that. And then it starts to put people's accountability into place.
I had I don't have children at home, so I don't have a children example, but I have a pet example from something that happened to me the other day, where one of the kitties jumped up on a table and was getting into something, and I was very scared and very fearful, and I wanted to scream stop, which would have scared the kitty and wasn't what I really meant. What I really meant was, I need you to be more careful. And I'm thinking, if it was my child, how I would say it. Like, what I really meant was, I need you to be more careful. I need you to not do that. But my instinct was to scream stop. And so I think about, if we're the person on the other end of that conversation of, this isn't working for me, how we absorb that in, and we know that the person bringing it to us, they're in fear, they're in a situation where they're sharing that with us. And you and I have had those conversations before, where one of us will go to the other one and say, I love you, but this thing that happened didn't work for me, and how to find a different way to do this.
It's simply not a sustainable formula. And in the beginning, it's like those words come out really hard. But when you think, I'm a coach, and relationships are, imagine it's like a football game. It's a coach's job to put formulas for the win. And if somebody's doing something that's going to lead to a lose, the coach is not going to tolerate it. Why do we tolerate unsustainable formulas within relationships and then feel bad because we're fighting for the good? We don't even need to fight anymore for it. We just need to say, this is just simply, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not a sustainable formula. I wish it was, and perhaps I faked it in my past that it was okay with me, but it's really not okay with me. It's not sustainable. It's going to affect our love. And if you're okay with that, tell me now, because that changes my position in the relationship. So what do you want? You want to create sustainable formulas or unsustainable formulas? And you put some of the power back into their hands.
For sure, because there's two of us in this relationship and conversation.
If I can add something, when I think of like the definition of the feminine boss, which was really a divine download, the name itself, I spent a lot of time saying to people, what is a feminine boss? Who is a feminine boss? And at the end of the day, it's a woman who really operates in strong love. It's a woman who operates in strong love, in the end goal, in all that we teach, with boundaries, which becoming the new you, which pursuing your dreams, which whatever it comes in, all to do it in the name of love. And if that is the through ingredient in all of our formulas, we're going to win. We're going to win. Because it's the highest, one of the highest vibrating emotions is that of love. And it's love that can win the war. So always it's about the message of love. Love for self and then love for others.
Dr. Tracy, I'm going to ask another question. You talked about when we're sharing with people that we have a new formula and the current formula isn't working for us, that the people who reject us and condemn us in that situation maybe are not people that have room in our life. I think that was the quote that you said. And my question about that is, or my statement, my conversation piece about that is, when we say that to somebody, if they are in a healthy mind state and they are someone who wants to help us grow, then it's fair and acceptable for them to have questions about this, but questions different than condoning or then criticizing us for that. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because again, you and I have had those conversations where, okay, I don't understand this thing, so let's talk about it so I can better understand it. Where if I was a less self-evolved person, I'd be like mad about it or upset about it versus wanting to be curious about it and learn. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. So a couple of things come to mind. The first thing is I have many life principles and mantras and different things. And one of my rules for myself is I have the right to inquire about things that affect my life. I have the right to inquire about things that affect my life. I don't have the right to say, for example, hey Tia, I have this question about Scott, and Scott's her husband, and his work and blah 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 blah. Scott doesn't affect my life. So Scott's life is none of my business, right? But anything that brushes up against my life and especially impacts my life, I have the right to inquire about the things that affect my life, to get the answers that I need to be safe. After a woman is 30 years old, one of her number one needs is, guess what? Safety. And another thing saying that I recommend to start telling people, and I was thinking about it when you were sharing about the cats, is don't pause when somebody says something and says, you know what, it says something that doesn't sit well with you, and to say, you know what, that makes me feel unsafe. Your behavior right now makes me feel unsafe. Why? I'm never going to hurt you. You're not giving me space for my voice. And if I don't have space for my voice, then it means that we're not in an authentic relationship. And if we're not in an authentic relationship, I'm not feeling safe. because I'm here for a safe relationship and an authentic relationship. And so last night in the confessions, the late night confession sessions, I was talking about intimacy, as I mentioned earlier. And intimacy is the ability to be candid, raw, and open without feeling judged, ridiculed, or blamed, shamed. And in that conversation, what transpired from it is somebody who you have the ability to be intimate with means I'm unguarded. This is who I am. And when you're unguarded and you're living chest open, that they're not going to come in and stab you or shoot you. So, one of those, that checklist to not be condemned, ridiculed, blamed, or shamed, that's huge. And somebody who authentically loves you, they will simply intake your information and hold a space for you to release it. And when it comes time for the feedback, that's all they're doing is they're giving you feedback. It is feedback without judgment. If they're giving you feedback and it's judging you or trying to control you or trying to convince you, how do I know the difference? You feel it. You feel it in every fiber of your being, that your internal defense mechanism goes, whoop, whoa, and you don't feel what? You don't feel safe. As a woman, safety is one of our most important, sorry, I can't stand when people say important characteristics that we need in our life. Emotional safety, sexual safety, financial safety, spiritual safety, psychological safety, physical safety. We need safety in our life. In my opinion, if I'm going to be in a relationship, it is the man's job to create that safety. Because if I have to do it on my own, why am I married? Why am I in a partnership? It is a man's job. And just as a woman, I have no problem doing feminine roles within my relationship. None whatsoever. But I believe that it's the man's responsibility. And I'm not talking about 100%. It comes with dialogue and et cetera, et cetera. But that's a whole other conversation that we'll talk about at another time.
Doctor, I was just going to say, a little bit ago, you had used the term strong love, and CJ had posted a question. What do you mean by strong love?
So what I mean is that many times is okay, I'm going to share a story, and I shared it the other day with something. Years ago, when I first started to come to Greece, my girlfriend, she had 3 kids, 2 girls and 1 boy. And one day I was over at the house, and all of a sudden her son, who was about 6 years old, he came running into the house and he was crying. And the father was there, and he said, Yanis, why are you crying? And Yanni said through his tears, because Dimitri took my toy. And he said, and what did you do? And he said, oh, okay, I came into the house and blah, 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 blah. And the father took his son and he said, Yanis, I want you to turn around. I want you to go back outside. I want you to take your toy back from Dimitri. And you look at him man to man and you say, Dimitri, don't take my toy without asking. And I about fell off my chair. And he looked at me, he was like, why do you have that look on your face? I said, because little girls are not taught that. Little girls are taught to say, oh, you want something that's mine? Go ahead and take it. You must be polite. They're company. Make company feel comfortable. All in the name of love and politeness. That's not strong love. Strong love is always understanding that the undercurrent of every choice that you make is love, i.e., freedom. So we're not trying to control another person, but we also will not allow somebody to come in and control our life or take what we need for a sense of survival for their benefit. We will hold on. We will hold on to the fort. We will protect our fort. There's a Bible verse that says, and your cup shall flow over. And people are to drink from the flow over, not from what's inside your cup. And strong love says, I am happy to share my spillage, my spillover with you, my abundance. I refuse to give up that which is keeping me whole and healthy. It's a strong love for yourself, strong love for others. In that, I go back to what I was saying. Is this a sustainable formula for love? When you have that standard, that's strong love. Hope that helps.
We are getting close to the end of our time, and we probably can run over a few minutes. So I wanted to open it up to any other questions that anyone else has before we wrap up today.
Hey, Tim, you're going to be able to get the chat, right? I want to make sure that I have a chance to read over those so that I can jot down to see if anybody had something in there that I can follow up with.
For sure. For sure.
No other questions? I hope that a little bit of the silence in the room is because people are thinking about life and the next best definition of how to enjoy this journey, because we're alive until we're dying. And we better get used to hanging out with this person called you and enjoying the people that we're with. Man, that's my big lesson right now. Enjoy ourselves and enjoy the people that we're with.
With that, ladies, have a great weekend. We're going to be back here in
Can we do some
month.
takeaways?
Yeah,
Can we do some takeaways so I can hear some takeaways?
Yeah. So we'll share takeaways. Some people are typing them in the chat. If you have a takeaway you want to share verbally, go ahead and raise your hand in the classroom. Neela Ford, go ahead and share your takeaway.
Thank you so much for an amazing class, Dr. Tracy and Thea. My takeaway is suffering is the key to our growth and should not get disappointed, but to embrace the change to become the better version of ourselves. And we should not be ashamed for who we are, because authenticity attracts people who really deserve us, or we deserve them. Thank you.
Love that.
So in the chat, a couple people shared takeaways. One takeaway was that I would love to learn about masculine and feminine roles in a relationship in a future class. We always talk about those roles at the Discover Your Divine conference. Tracy, any other thoughts on when we might be talking more about that?
Yeah, I'm really excited because we are officially opening the doors to the Feminine Boss in October. And the very first class, I think there's 5 or 6 modules in it. It talks all about what exactly is the divine feminine. Why is it that we need it? How does it differ from the masculine? If you have the Feminine Boss magazine, I actually have a one sheet in there that kind of does a cross comparison between masculine and feminine energy. We are both. We have both. The reason that I'm so focused on it is that we live in a world where we have only been taught the masculine energy, and it's done us amazing good as far as the development of the industrial ages and things of that nature, because it's very do driven. And the feminine energy was very dismissed as silly or not serious. But masculine energy is to pursue, feminine energy is to receive. And so there's a whole set of formulas that the reason that it's so needed right now is, number one, we have been on deplete mode for many years. And as women, we have been robbed of this beautiful celebration of how we are supposed to naturally go through life. We've been a little bit steroided up on masculine energy. And what that leads to is complete burnout, that we end up exhausting. And when we shift the gears and start operating out of our feminine energy, because we're so heavy in masculine energy, you'll find that life just gets much more balanced and effortless to be able to execute the things that we do. But Tia can tell you more about the classes that are coming up, and I'm really excited about it. And everybody who was a part of the pageant, I have wonderful gift certificates for you for the Academy.
So another message came in. I am thankful for this class. This is from Nitika. I am thankful for this class as each and every, that Dr. Tracy said is reality, and every day is reminding myself when it is okay to say no if it doesn't make you happy personally or professionally. What hit me was emotions are not up for negotiation. This
Love
is
that one.
why should it be? Love it. Looking forward to more classes.
Yeah, just remember that one. And what's so funny is when you're, let's say, in an intense conversation with somebody who's trying to negotiate, you hear emotions, and suddenly what pops out of your mouth is, you know what? I understand what you're saying, but my emotions are not up for negotiation. I understand that I allowed them to be up for negotiation in the past, and I allowed you to negotiate me out of them. But moving forward, for me to be the happiest person in this relationship, to be the best definition of me, to make sure that you get the best definition of me, my emotions can no longer be up for negotiation. And if you continue to try to negotiate my emotion, you know, that's just not a sustainable formula. You're not going to get the best definition of me. So it'd be really great if you could just absorb what I'm saying. You don't have to like it, just absorb what I'm saying. And then we can circle back around, and I'll consider your emotions and you consider my emotions, and let's see if we can come up with a new formula. I'm in love with this concept that all of life is formulas. It's so fun. I feel like a chef in the kitchen. I'm like, what else is in the refrigerator?
One other takeaway, Ipsa shared her biggest takeaway was feedback without judgment.
Yeah, exactly. And how do you know? You feel it immediately. And what do you start to do when somebody starts to feedback you with judgment? You realize this person is not safe for me because I'm not allowed to be intimate. I'm not allowed to be intimate with this person. And they're just, unfortunately, they're going to lose access to this side of me. And until you can have a conversation to say that when I open up and I share my intimacies with you and you start to judge, that's not a sustainable formula, because I'm going to stop sharing myself with you. Is that what you really want? And you might see that the person on the other side will say, no, I'm saying that because I'm scared for you. I'm scared for me. I'm scared. Okay, I can handle the conversation about fear. Let's talk about fear, but let's not talk about trying to control my thoughts or emotions. Let's talk about fear. That is another example of strong love.
For sure, for sure. Devika, you rose your hand. Did you have another question or takeaway?
No, I just a takeaway. Yes. Again, I've got many. I thought I've got notes one after the other. But last, one of the quotes in the end that Dr. Tracy said, the universe can't support status quo because we are ever evolving beings. And I think this is one conversation that I have in my household very often lately, because I'm asked like, why now? Why this? Why that? And I always said, first, I don't know, but then I always did say at the same time, the other side of I don't know was that because I believe that I'm always evolving, like I'm always looking to learn new things and do things better, be more efficient, effective in my life. But still, when you hear it from a person like Dr. Tracy, it hits you a different way. And then you have a better clarity and you have better words to express yourself next time around you're asked why now or why have you changed and things like that. So thank you. That was phenomenal.
And you know what you can do is you can also ask people, just be direct to say, why are you afraid of me changing? What is it about me changing that makes you afraid? What if what if tomorrow you could wake up and have a love affair with a completely new woman? What if this new woman that I'm evolving into falls deeper in love with you? What if this woman makes you 10 times more happy? Wouldn't you love that? It's a little bit of a reverse psychology, but it's their fear. He's afraid, they're afraid of something. And if within reason, you can open up the door to say, tell me what your fear is. My fear is that you're going to neglect the children, neglect these human beings that I birthed through my own body. that their brain cells are actually in my brain and I couldn't forget about them if I wanted to, that I'm going to neglect them? Have I ever given any indication that I'm the type of woman who neglects the people that they love? Come on now, let's not have these conversations. Come on now, you need to believe in the person that you chose as a wife, okay? You have a little bit more confidence in your decision-making skills. We can put boundaries up in love. And I know that Epsa said that it's the Indian culture as women, we get judged all the time. And judgment is something I just can't do anymore. I cannot be around people who judge me. I cannot stop people from judging me, but I no longer give people, it's their opinion. Again, judgment, the way that you can work through that is say, you know what, judgment is simply their opinion. And people are not required to like me. The question is, do I like myself? And do I have feedback in my immediate circle from good people that are also liking the person that I'm evolving into? If you had all of your family and the ones that you trust and that you can be intimate with, and they're going like bad choices, maybe consider your formula. But if not, I wrote a book, it's called How Not to Care What People Think. And I know we're running out of time, but in this book, I had this vision that I got, and it was a dream. And in this dream, I was in a tunnel and I was running. How dreams are, I was running. And at the very end of the tunnel, there was this light. And as I kept running closer and closer, my heart was pounding and I was so afraid. And what I realized in the dream is that I was in this tunnel and I was about to debut the new me. And as I was running towards the light and I had all this anxiety, the thought that was going through my head is, who's going to be there? Who is going to, when I come out and I say, ladies and gentlemen, her, right? Is my mom going to love me? Is my dad going to love me? Are my sisters going to love me? What friends are going to love me? Who is going to be there for me if I show up as the new me? And the moral of the story that I got from that is, who's going to be there? The people that genuinely love me are going to be there. And if I have to be somebody I'm not in order for somebody to love me, then that's not love. And I am not interested in my life in chasing anybody's love anymore. I had to chase love and prove myself for love and wanted to be accepted by love. And no, I have the right at this stage of my life to stand here and be myself. And somebody in the 8 billion people in the world will love that person. And what I found is that most everybody was there and happy with who I emerged as after they got over their own fears.
So I just had a kind of an epiphany thought from that, Dr. Tracy. When someone that we know is going through something, we get to choose to judge or to celebrate, right? Like those are the two lanes we can be in. And I think when the person on the other end, if I tell you something and you judge me, it's about you and your fear and your concern. If you're celebrating, then it's more about me. But that came through really strongly. Like when they judge me, it's about them. It's not about me.
Exactly. And then if I sit around and judge people, I have too much time in my hands and I'm really just projecting my fears or my insecurities. But if you learn to celebrate when somebody's making unhealthy choices for themselves, drinking too much, drugging too much, being unethical, blah, blah, blah. But if somebody is going through something and their choices are a little bit callywonk, I think that we have the right to go into a holding pattern and saying, want to talk a little bit more about that? Let me know how I can be here. How can I, Tia's favorite question, how can I best support you right now? And that's an act of love.
It is. So with that, ladies, we love you all. We're so glad that you were able to join us today.
My takeaway was that you got to keep moving. Like, I just feel like sometimes I get depressed and I just stop and I don't know what to do. And I think right now I'm in that people pleasing stage where if I told you how many like jobs I have outside of my jobs with all these different organizations, it would probably shock you. But I just need to stop and just say no and remove myself. If it's not suiting me, then I need to move forward, because me spreading myself thin through a lot of organizations is not really benefiting the ones that I really need to focus on. And so there were so many different points that you mentioned today that it's hard to narrow it down to one, but yeah, I'm just going through my own little thing. And so I just appreciate everything, and thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you, and listening to everybody just share. It really helps me.
Yeah, the compliment in all that, Sujong, is because so many people want you on their team. That is a reflection that you're gifted in certain areas. So understand that as that is your gift, you have the right to determine who gets the privilege of intercepting and experiencing that gift. So I would look at all those obligations and say, who's really showing me the gratitude that when I leave, I feel filled up by them. It's because love has reciprocity. That love is when I'm with this person, I'm donating into them and they're donating into me. And when we leave, you're not just, and so really examine the reciprocity, and that will help you determine which are the ones to keep and which one just to put on pause for now. Okay, Miss Tia.
Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully you've got some great food for thought from today. Oh my God. Ladies, have a great day, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you so much.